Brethren, let me introduce myself. I am Velu MS, the ruling master of the Millennium Lodge number 327, and I will be hosting this webinar today for you. I proceed to start the meeting and request all of you to observe a minute of silent prayer. Thank you, brethren. I now proceed to give my welcome address. Right Worshipful Brother Bharat Venkatipur, OSM, past Regional Grandmaster of Eastern India, Right Worshipful Brother Adi Vakil, OSM, past Regional Grandmaster of Western India, Right Worshipful Brother Dr. Shan, Right Worshipful Brother Achyut Patel, Deputy District Grandmaster, Right Worshipful Brethren, very worshipful brethren, ruling masters and brethren from all over India and from many other parts of the world who have gathered here for this webinar. A very good evening and a very warm welcome to all of you. Brethren, most of you are already aware that the Millennium family of lodges and chapters are in the forefront of connecting to the brethren and spreading Masonic knowledge during the COVID times, giving one program every week. Following the successful conduct of our first Millennium Lecture Series program during last month, when we presented a topic on unique temple of Lisbon, we are now bringing to you another unique topic on the secret history of Bombay and the third temple, which will be presented by our distinguished guest speaker, Brother Richard Mehta, who has done an excellent research on this subject. I believe that there is a message of knowledge concealed in the physical design of Mumbai, which will be clearly explained to all of us by the distinguished speaker. And also we look forward to hearing from him to get us ourselves enlightened about what is considered to be one of the locations the Jews believe was the spiritual third temple of Jerusalem or the Mother of Jerusalem. Considering the depth of research material available with Brother Richard, we thought it fit to have the first part of his lecture today, and the second part will be presented to you during the episode 3 of the Millennium Lecture Series in December 20. I sincerely thank our Right Worshipful Brother Bharat Venkatipur for arranging the guest speaker and also agreeing to do the summing up after the presentation and also facilitate the question and answer session. I now thank each and every one of you for taking your time to attend this webinar, and I once again accord a very warm welcome from the bottom of my heart to all the brethren who have gathered here virtually from all over the world. With these few words, I now proceed to invite Right Worshipful Brother Bharat to give us an introduction of the speaker of the evening. Over to you, Right Worshipful Brother.
Thank you, Worshipful Master, Worshipful Brother MS Velu. Good evening, brethren. And we have several distinguished brethren in our midst. Right Worshipful Brother Adi Vakil, Right Worshipful Brother Loki Siong, Right Worshipful Brother Dr. Shan, and of course, Right Worshipful Brother Achyut Patel, who have all either been or are current rulers of their districts and provinces. Welcome to all of you, and of course, we have a distinguished audience of Right Worshipful Brother and Very Worshipful and Worshipful Brother and brethren all. Brethren, you heard our pastor give you an introduction to the Millennium series and the Millennium family of lodges and chapters. So I won't belabor that issue. And let me just give you a little bit of an introduction to our speaker this evening. I first ran into Brother Richard Mehta during one of the webinars I was conducting for the weekly ones which I do for Lodge North Star. And I found him to be a very keen Mason with a very keen sense of history and a keen interest in the esoteric idea of Masonry as well as related subjects. So we got chatting on a private matter, not on the public forum, and he was telling me about his great interest in the design and the growth of the city of Bombay, now known as Mumbai. And this was about 3-4 months ago. And he said that he was working on an idea of a paper which would exemplify the inherent design which went into the building of the new city and how he felt that there had Masonic connections. So I requested him to continue his research and then be ready to present a paper. And I promised him that I will give him some kind of a, place where he could present his paper to a discerning audience. So when he told me a few weeks ago that his paper was ready, I offered him this place with the permission of the Worshipful Master, and I'm glad he chose to accept it. And those of you who know Brother Richard, who is an initiate of Sorab Dawar Lodge number 113 of Mumbai, where he's currently an inner guard, and in private life is a DOP, videographer, and photographer. But more important than anything else is his keen interest in the subject. He had done so much research into it, and his presentation was so detailed that I asked him whether he could split it up into two parts, because if he were to do it in a single part, it would not do justice to the subject. So he graciously agreed to make it into two parts. So today he'll be presenting the first part. Brethren, I present to you Brother Richard Behram Mehta. Brother Mehta, the virtual floor and mic is yours.
Thank you, Brother Bharat, for your kind words. Good evening, most worshipful, right worshipful, very worshipful, and worshipful brethren. I would like to thank Worshipful Master M.S. Velu, NEM Lodge number 327, for hosting my lecture and having me here, as well as Brother Bharat for all his kind words and dedication to me and my wonderful, crazy idea. So I hope all the brethren here are safe and stay safe in the future in spite of these dark days. I'm sure there are bright days up ahead, and we will be able to meet again once things start to get better. I will start with my opening presentation, and then I will go to the PPT. So let's not start with the PPT yet. You can just hold on for a minute, and I'll start with an opening. Occult Seperta is hidden in plain sight, describes esoteric and occult symbolism in the sacred space of Mumbai. You can draw pentagrams, hexagrams, triangles, crosses, and other multi-tangled geometrical constructs in the essence of the tree of life is a map of the universe. And its original suchness is of itself endowed with sublime attributes. It manifests the highest of wisdom, which shines through the world, and it has true knowledge and a mind resting simply in its own being, in its eternal bliss and in its own self-being, and of the purest simplicity. It is integrating and immutable, free, as if possesses all these attributes and is deprived of nothing. It is the designated both as the womb of Tatha Gatha and the Dharma body of Tatha Gatha. As we walk through the streets of Mumbai in the course of this lecture, we will enter a parallel world populated by archetypes in stone, carvings, monuments, statues, buildings, and inscriptions, placed here to teach us the workings of the universe like the hierophants of the mystery schools of antiquity. They silently communicate a curriculum designed to inspire, elevate, and teach eternal truths. A pilgrimage for those who seek to see a universal lesson in the tree of life. This is a non-denominational faith in the line with Masonic ideals, capable of being shared by all of those who recognize God as that which has created and sustained the universe, such as the primal deity worshipped by Christians, Jews, Muslims, yet it is also the basis of Hinduism and Buddhism, Confucianism and paganism, and the New Age faiths in all religions and spiritual pathways. We glance at the first ray of sunrise or sunset, a lotus, the star, sculptures and magnificent paintings, a monument of true love, and find therein an energy hidden or burning bright defines God who kisses life into existence. The sacred interaction between heaven and earth is continually reflected like a lake of mercury. The symbolism and architecture of the Mumbai city of both the most austere severity and elegant symmetry, in a clear sight which resembles an astronomical observatory seeking intimacy, unity with heaven. Humanity is made up of neophytes, taught to use their tools to improve the soul and to seek truth. Beings designed to emulate the creativity of their maker. Finally, flora, the female personification, reflection, duality, the keystone, and the history book. A gate to a glorious garden, a shrine, a university, a prayer, and front row seat to the great play. It is a memorial to truth in the culture of deceit and lies, a single flame of freedom in the world of tyranny, a dewdrop of hope in the darkness of despair. So let us explore together the first light, invigorating vision of courage and liberty, mortality and lucidity, creativity and joy, a journey towards suchness. And as we step into the rabbit hole to gaze into the stars of this divine comedy, in the words of Dante Alighieri himself, eternal and eternal I shall endure. All hope abandon ye to enter here. Secret history of Bombay and the Third Temple. I will go through this presentation as quickly as possible, as well as precisely as I can, to explain as much information as I can in a limited form. Because each topic over here is vast. It's like explaining the tree of life is not going to be explained in one session, but maybe Talmud has so many books, 32, 33 books, the same way. Everything has time to explain it. So in the most concise fashion, I put together this paper, and I shall now bring it into fruition. Nothing is wanting but the key. If thou comprehends these things, thou knowest enough. This was the first Grand Master, William Sinclair, Rosslyn Chapel. We have our introduction. We shift to the next page, brother. God blows the world as if you were to blow a glass bubble, and had to take a deep breath, holds it, and with one luminous hiss of the 10 Sephirah, God hisses, and there was life. To understand Kabbalah, and as you see, there are many different versions of Kabbalah written over here. You have Kabbalah, which is with a Q, with a K, with a C. These are different versions. With the K, it is Hermetic Kabbalah. With the Q, it steps into, with the Q, it steps into Hermetic Kabbalah. With the K, it basically deals with Judaism, a very stringent form of it. Then you have the K, which is Egyptian. So when we step into this area, we have to understand the tree of life is universal. And there's nothing purer than the essence of understanding the universe in itself. In its new form, one has to first specify the type. So I will be dealing with a lot of the Hermetic Kabbalah and basic Kabbalah, and I'll explain a lot of Aramaic, Old Aramaic, and Square Aramaic, because there are 3 different types of that as well. So let me begin in this. In its many forms, one of the first specify the type. In this case, Freemasonry is explicit in its universal outlook towards religion, and thus uses different methods of study in detail. The interconnection of these locations is associated with the architecture and its deeper meaning, the planet meaning, the position of the alphabet. And in that, the 22 Hebrew alphabets also consist of all the lines that join this Ankh or tree of life together. How you perceive it, how you break it up, that's what the job of each religion has done. In the lodge, the placement of the offices and placement of the planets. And the sun, the universe, is a pantomime of universal allegory, showing spiritual and psychic mental ascension of the living beings who choose to walk the path of Dhat. I'll explain that. Through the doorway of Dalit and a window into the journey of the soul, from darkness into light. So let us step forward and we will see the brief history of Bombay. Bombay, in a nutshell, is a very, very old location. You can see that it was the capital of King Bhimdev, 13th century. It was called Mahikavati, yeah, and this was present-day Mahim at the time, and it was also known as the Old Woman's Island. So you can go back to Manori Beach. Over there, they have researchers have found sort of tools that date back to maybe 10, 15,000 years ago, from the Middle Stone Age and the Mesolithic era. You can also see that's in Kalyan Nalasupara site. That's a very old area. We have the location of Banganga. Banganga, again, we have a connection with that. It essentially, when the water sprouts from the Ganges, there's a Hindu mythology based on that area. So there's also that same mythology in the Jewish perception. There's a special river or spring that sprouts up, and that's where the water goes to the temple in Israel itself. goes up 80 feet. So the spring has to be a high level of pressure. So that's something that connected with me earlier. We also have a place called Gilbert Hill. Gilbert Hill is also from the Mesozoic era. It's 66 million years old. I mean, 66, I mean, something to think about since we're all Freemasons, 66 million years old. Maharashtra, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, this was covering of 50,000 square kilometers, where basically the lava broke into the earth and created this area. So we'll move on to the next slide. A brief history, we can look back at Elephanta Caves. Now, this is a UNESCO site, which is only 10 kilometers outside Bombay. So it's very close and definitely to me has a lot of interconnections to why the city was built here and the purpose of its building in this location because of probably this island and other islands that interconnect. But this is a very, very long way down the puzzle, as I said. But to be precise, this is a very important part of it. That's why I wanted to bring it up and bring it into sight. You see there's a Trimurti over there, basically the three heads of Shiva. Again, a lot of symbology there. When we step into it, you can see on the right side, or you'll see the whole caves inside. This is from about 550 CE. Now, a horrible thing is the Portuguese came, destroyed it, banged it, scratched it. They tried to break it. You see this whole bunch of. If you go to the next slide over here, you can see the temples that are still available. Yeah, it's from the 6th century. You can see the sculpture has been sort of scratched, like broken. So they came and they tried to desecrate all the statues at that time. This is also the time where the story begins. And we end up understanding the idea of why Garcia de Orsa came to Bombay and he was the king of Portugal. So there's a connection over there, which we will go into. Next slide. This is basically how I perceive the 10 Sephiroth and the locations of these buildings in the city of Mumbai. On your right is basically a tree, the Kabbalah tree of life. And I have taken that and placed it on top of the map of Mumbai. As you can see, the top layer, the top one at the very peak is called Keta. Keta is INS, angry. It is basically our main command center. We'll be talking about Naval Command Center. This is the crown. This is the divine connection. Then we have the next one, which is on your right, because it moves in this form of a lightning bolt. So when you see the tree of life, it acts in the form, the movement of the energy is the form of a lightning bolt. And this is very important because it goes upwards also in the form of a lightning bolt. So it strikes down and it strikes up. So the tree is also upside down and the right way around. So this is very esoteric, but we'll get into the basic locations right now. We have the district office, which is your right side, which is the father. Yeah, the father is wisdom, active intelligence. So this was built by the people. It was the power of the people who built this location, and this was where, how we say, unity happened. The first ray of light, we call it Alif. Alif is basically from Keta to Hokma, where the first ray of light comes in. So this is Hokma. Then we have to the left, we have the mother, which is going to be Bina. Bina is the Bank of India. The Bank of India also symbology is the pentagram. We'll go into a lot of details over there, and how David Sassoon also was part of funding about 8 lakhs in the building of that building. We have the LIC building on your right, which is a Gebera. Sorry, I missed the stock exchange. As you go down, you have the stock exchange. Now, people say the stock exchange was made later on. That's very well and good. That's absolutely fine because the stock exchange, even in its day, was a tree. This was the idea of this location where people can come, the people tree. So the location is a symbol of the tree. This on top of it has been made as essentially the snake and the pot. So as you can see, we'll get into that again because there's a lot of architectural work over there. Brilliant detailing. The gentleman even wrote a book called The Fourth Dimension, which is lovely stuff. After that, we have the New India building, which is, Bombay Life Building. Tiferet. Tiferet is the sun, it's the one in the center. You can see it in the center of the picture. This is sort of a design like that. That is Tiferet, right in the center over there. Okay, that's the sun. And how do we know that? The building in the corner has a sort of what do you call it? A section of the building has been built in a circular form, like a balcony area, but it's been built with a line on the top. And that line essentially is a symbol. So you have to look at it from a top perspective. It's a circle with a dot in it, and that is the symbol of the sun. We have the Orient buildings, which are on your left over here. Now there are two buildings that come down, and you have the Flora Fountain, which is in the center. You have Siddharth College on the left, and you have the New India Insurance Building, which is Netza. Netza is essentially Venusian. It's Venus, it's victory. See the building, it's got two guards standing there with swords. The swords point all the way down. It's victory, it's dominance. It's basically celebrating the Venusian energy. And it's also directly connected to Mitra, Mitraism. I mean, the cult of Mitra and the whole understanding of that directly has a connection to that. If you look at it over here, the center part, or the left side, when we go from Netza, we go to Hod. Hod is a depiction of the simple Jew. Now, Hod is what? Hod is actually David Sassoon's library. This is a gentleman who opened a library over here. He is a simple Jew. He never used to wear clothes that were westernized. He never spoke English. He stuck to his traditions, and he was one of the founding members. We'll go into his detail, but another connectivity as to how this area makes sense. Below that, we have Yasod, which is the Bharat Sanchar Nigam building, and it's a combination of two buildings joined together to create the letters E and L. EL, again, we'll go into the detail of that because it's very interesting. Elohim. Elohim is the name of God. So Yasod essentially is in the name of God. We change the slide over to the next one. We have Malkut. Malkut over here is the base position of the entire bottom. The bottom part you see over here, that is Malkut. Malkut is the 5 elements. 5 elements are Churchgate Station, Eros Cinema, Western Railway Building, Industrial Assurance Building, and the Spirit Point. So the Spirit Point is in essence of the point with which the energy moves upwards. And yeah, there's a statue over there, Parsi gentleman, and I will explain him in a bit more detail. And he looks up, and that is the point of spirit. That's where he's looking towards. He's looking towards Keter, towards the top. You know, he's going to make that journey. And he's doing it from Malkut. Malkut is the kingdom of earth. So this is the kingdom of earth. And Malkut is empty. So as you see, there's nothing in the center over there. It's a center that's empty, and it's surrounded by these buildings. These buildings, nothing can be that. It is a manifestation in itself. Okay, we can go to the next one. Next slide. This is where it all started for me. You know, I had been studying, and I've done a lot of work on the design and the layout of everything, but it's really not come into fruition, and I couldn't find where it all started from. So I realized that in the tree of life, there is a Sephiroth that's called the zero Sephiroth. The Sephiroth that is not counted. You can call it zero number, and that is Dat. So according to Hermetic Kabbalah with a Q, yeah, that is used in this retrospective. But in Hindu Kabbalah, it's not as used. They don't really consider it as a number Sephiroth. As I said, in Hermetic, it's still zero. So that is where my story started. You have the archangels for each one. So this is the soul of David. Okay, this is where David's soul is kept. You know, this is Mercury. And we'll go into a lot about that, and I'll explain a lot more. But this is where my journey started. And when you see, it's actually an imprintation of opposites. So that is what you're not supposed to see. So the hidden secret is in plain sight. So it was very interestingly done. Okay, we can go to the next one, and we can start with what is the meaning of Dat? Dat is Mercury, right? Dat over here is basically Uranus. Uranus, the planet of Uranus, and it's the third line. So this is basically H and I. Ornament circle. It's called ornament circle. See, ornament circle, and H is an I. I know this could be a little far stretched, but the actual symbolism of it is an H and an I. Not an I, but a line through the center. So it's separate, two separate identifications that create this form of Dat. Dat is a transformation, and it is also the color gray. Now, if you look at that actual area is gray, and it has birds flying out of it that are black. And I don't want to go into that, but there's a lot of symbology over there. And I'll have to go into the Royal Ark area to get into that symbology. So there's no point in going there. But there are birds, even the birds that have been placed there have symbolism to that structure. There are two types of Dat. There's Tachon. Tachon is basically the two levels of Dat. Tachon is the lower level of Dat, and then there's a higher level of Dat. So Dat is essentially a doorway. And each Sephiroth over here that we're going to speak of, each building is in, according to Kabbalah, is a doorway. It is a gateway to maybe another dimension, maybe another state of consciousness, another frequency, completely up to you. This is why Freemasonry is so amazing. You can speculate this and actually get away fine and have a good time speculating upon any part of it from any religion. So let's move on. We have the prism, the 7 lights. The crystal prism is kept on that. So the essence of the rainbow, where the rainbow starts, when we speak of the rainbow, where it starts is from that. And the 7 rays that we learn, the 7 arts that we learn, the science and arts, are an element of this. So we could probably say that straight off the top of my head, that could lead to Hod, which is David Sassoon's library. Okay, next image. Jews and its affiliation with Freemasonry. No, there is a lot of affiliation with Jews and Freemasonry. That's as I was reading also earlier, there was a time in history where they were going to branch out, and they were going to pick one of the main languages. So it's either being Jewish, basic Aramaic, Old Aramaic, or it was going to be Chinese. That's what somebody said, but I don't know. But definitely a lot of Old Aramaic has been used, and a lot of symbology. So you can go back into the history, and I'm not going to get into language because all the language has to be traced. You know, scripts have to be traced. So even all these lines that I've done and designed have not come from one type of scripting. They come from multiple different scripts. You have the Old Aramaic, you have the Square Aramaic, you have the different types, and you have to choose the different ones that fit and suit that sort of design. You can see all the orders on the left over here that they've joined, and you can also understand that they have been very active during the Scottish Rite. Famous people like Harry Houdini, of course, part of it, Gershwin, George Gershwin. According to these guys in San Francisco, 19th century Masons were very prominent and bustling the scene, and they were on the go. Let's go to the next page. Here we have an ideology, which I wanted to bring about, is the Jews have maintained their race, religion, culture, and language, and all they wanted was natural territory to comply, to complete their nationality. So this is on the left side over here. You can see the writings over there. You can go into any details; they're all there. You can just take a screenshot and just refer back to it. Because I'll jump across a few details like this. In the middle, gorgeous photos. This is the lodge of State of Israel. You have their warrant and the different warrants over here that we placed. The Bene Israeli Freemasons. Bene Israeli, somebody, a lovely story. Actually, that's an entire separate, completely separate lecture on that one. It's a gorgeous story. Jews have been living here for over 2,000 years. They're talking about the Bene Israelis, and they have never been discriminated against. This is something unparalleled in human history. So, a beautiful a testament to wanting to be here, a reason they should be here. Next page. So we're going to go into the scriptures a bit over here. So the Torah is essentially the tree of life, and the teachers that teach this perspective, there are 3 main teachings to this perspective, right? It's the time, space, and the soul. All right. So when you see it, the tree of life also is a depiction of Jacob and Esau's battle. Yeah, the soul of Jacob is Moses, and the soul of Dath is also Jacob. So you'll see that Jacob is the soul of Dath. So he is the soul of David too. So they are both the same, interchangeable as in Moses as well. So these are all the same person. They're all an emanation of the same person. So they're not one individual person, they're a formation. So it's spirit that moves. A unified spirit moves amongst all 3 of these people. This is what is trying to be explained over here. Jacob is the garden of Eden, fragrance. Fragrance is the God. God is fragrance. We say that God is fragrance. I mean, you smell God. God is in the air, God is in everything, but God is fragrance. We call him that. In the garden, you go, you close your eyes, you smell that fragrance. The garden, being a gardener, is like the next level of being closer to God. I mean, once you've done the architecture, you become the gardener, and you become a hermit, and you learn these teachings over and over again. So you become the gardener, and you become a hermit, and you learn these teachings over and over again. So hello, sorry, I had a feedback. Everything okay? Okay. Can you hear me? Mr. Martin, you can hear me? Mr. Martin, you can hear me? Thank you. Thank you.
Please continue, Richard. Richard, you're on mute.
Brother Richard, unmute yourself.
He's not able to unmute. Can you unmute?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Perfect. Sorry. I couldn't unmute myself. I do apologize.
Please go ahead, brother.
So, we have, okay, thank you so much. Okay, so healing of the breaking vessels, and we'll move on. The pillars of Ari, written in the Holy Ari, tell us about the pillars of Boa, pillars that hold nothing but arcs, being the gateway to the arrival of the third temple. It's believed that this shall come between pillars and above the keystone, that the Garden of Eden may be brought down as the third temple. So is that something from me?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Ari passed away at the age of 38 during a pandemic. Okay, 13 days of Tammuz. The middle is the 23rd day. This is very important because these are the days they use to basically create calculations over everything. The base, Yasod. Yasod is essentially the two pillars that hold the base together and support the heavens. Then you have Netzah. Netzah, the grandchild of David, who married Ruth. Ruth is also a very important story over here because it's known as the transformation of the days of mourning. We learn a lot about these days of mourning and how they connect in with all this placement. Hod, which means the simple Jew, we spoke about that. Lion's Gate is the west wall of Herodian. Tile wall is built in stone. So you can see it faces the west, and it's essentially a depiction of the west wall. Okay? So David was feminine. There was a feminine soul and a masculine body. That's something to think about because when David wants to ascend through the tree of life and come to a higher level of spirituality, he ascends to Ketar. And the only way to ascend to Ketar is in the feminine energy. The masculine energy cannot ascend. So he has to ascend as a feminine energy. So David actually is an embodiment of feminine energy. Can we change to the next one? Next slide, please.
Richard, you're again muted. Velu, please unmute.
Yeah. I'm sending the request. Brother Richard, unmute yourself, please.
Sorry, I just muted myself. It just happened again suddenly. I have no idea why. Okay, so Jacob experiences fear and said, awesome is this. God is great and mighty and awesome. So essentially the purpose of us being on earth, or being alive, or being in this world is essentially awesomeness. Yeah. So when we feel the world in the way it is and how we feel it, that awesomeness is what we strive for and what we want to achieve through this tree of life and the growth of it. We call this Yahud, Yahar, and Nohar, meaning the unification of fear and awesomeness. We say the Israel means the head, the top, this is the serpent's head. Jacob, it is called the heel, and he came from Esau. So Jacob grabbed Esau's heel as he came into this world. These are very important parts that will be revealed later on during this lecture that I wanted to bring up and clarify before I go into more detail. I will go to the next one, Ruha. Ruha is essentially divine instinct. There are some people have Ruha, the Levites, the Shaddai, the Eshah, the kings, they have Ruha. So with Ruha, you have to understand you can basically see things in the future sometimes. It's not a God-given thing, but it's something that happens to people. So certain people come and they build these designs based on this information. Okay? That is the Holy Spirit to David. We spoke about that. A tabernacle was made by Bitsdale. David is a descendant from this, his mother's side, and half-sister Joseph called Dinah, Judah. You know, this guy built the tabernacle. So again, we're going to go into St. Thomas's Church when we get there, and we'll get a bit of understanding towards that as well. So let's move on, because we know David and Solomon basically that whole story at the bottom. So let's get a bit past that from Hashem, and let's come to David Sassoon over here. David Sassoon is essentially the main guy who built the city of Bombay to start Bombay per se, but was the one to come up with this concept of the idea of the city of Bombay. This is around 1830. He was a Baghdadi Jew, Sephardic Baghdadi Jew. And his father was one of the princes in Baghdad and a treasurer over there. So there was some problem and he had to leave, and he came here through divine intervention. And he decided to live in Bombay, and he built this whole city. He built 17 mills. He built tons of, when employed over 15 to 20,000 people. We can shift to the next link. It's almost 15 to 20,000 people he paid for. And if you look at it over here, Prince's Dock is basically built because he built Sassoon Dock and they loved it so much they went and built Prince's Dock. He was also known as the Rothschild of the East. And no package that ever went out or had a stamp. You can see if we can go to the next one after this, you'll see the stamp of the Rothschild stamp. So all the packages have these stamps on it. And even the symbology of that stamp itself is mind-blowing and really depth-sure. Yeah. So you all see the stamp over here. See, you can see at the bottom is the tree over here. Lovely, lovely shape of the tree. We have the lion, and then we have the bird flying. Okay, and could be a depiction of basically leaving, ascension, right? So he is essentially a master of esoteric knowledge, quite obviously based on the symbolism he has chosen for this layout. We have Albert Sassoon. If you go back for a second, Albert Sassoon was a KCB. He was basically knighted by the Queen. One slide back for a moment. Yeah, so he was knighted by the Queen. He finished the project after his father. His father went to Pune because of ill health. He couldn't stay here. Finished the project after his father and completed the city. After that, somebody else started the project, which we'll go into later on. He was essentially also considered to be an MI6 agent at the time and was known to be very powerful in his own right. Married a daughter of a Rothschild and was part of the Rothschild family. I don't know about his lineage after that. We can go to the next link. And the next one, we can move ahead as well. We have cleared all this. This is the Tree of Life. This is how the Bombay is lined up, and this is exactly where the different locations are placed. And as I spoke to you earlier about the different locations, now we can physically see these locations and how they are placed in the Tree of Life over here. On the left, you can see the different interpretations of the planetary structures. Each line on your side has a different meaning. So as I said, from Alif to Dalit to Bet, you have all different meanings. Zayn, Hey, Tet. Tet is like the tabernacle. So we're going to have the tabernacle over there. And what they mean, Vav is connecting the heaven upper world to the lower world. So let's keep that. And the lightning strike on your right, you can see the lightning strike. A lovely depiction. Simple understanding. And you can see the H in the center. I was talking about one in the circle. See the H and dot right in the center over there. All right. Next slide, please. Next slide is basically going to go into the bit of the history over here, because when we go back, we have to understand Garcia de Orta was essentially the king of Portugal, and he ran away from Portugal in fear that he would be, burnt at the stake, or basically the Inquisition was on essentially. So he ran over here and he found Bombay and he stayed on the island and he became a botanist over here. And he made a lot of work, he did a lot of things. I mean, we can go through the history over here, which is essentially about the island being shifted over and the different people who bought it and different people who've taken it. But it's not as prevalent to sticking to the idea of who Garcia de Orta is. Okay? He built something called the Castle of Mumbai over here, Casa de Orta. Casa de Orta is one of the oldest defense structures built in the city in Mumbai. And the structure castle is a structure built in the British site of the manor house built by a Portuguese nobleman, Garcia de Orta. Orta had leased the island of Bombay from the King of Portugal between 1554 and 1570. Let's go to the next slide. He was basically burnt at the stake, unfortunately. So he was a Portuguese Sephardic Jew. He was a physician, he was a herbalist. He wrote the book, the Magnum Opus, right? He also wrote the book in 1563 called Colliculus dos Simples et Drogas da India, which is essentially a book based on medicines and economics, right? So he studied the economics of these medicines and how they all connect with everything. He died, as I said, he was burned to the Inquisition. His sister was burned for being a secret Jew. He is Keta, he is the top. Right, he will be the first point in this puzzle and how it interconnects. Can we go for the next one, please? This is a slight continuation going on. Oh, 1 second, I just lost my page link here. These are a few historical perspectives. You can take a screenshot, but the main point over here is that many Jews came to the city in Bombay, and about 630 families that came in were permanently here, who were from nobility. These noble families paid about 8 cuserios at the time. It was 8 cuserios per member, per family member. So if you were 4 members, you pay 8 times 4, right? And he would pay for them. It was probably a very great deal of money at the time, and he did obviously take the maximum amount of advantage and expulsion. But anyway, let's go on. His property was a sundial, and it actually they say the property was built as a sundial, but not a sundial of days and months, but a sundial of other calculations. That's the way they put it. So there's no real research that's being put into that. There is, but they've not spoken about it. One would have to go there and do that. Next slide. We have the triads and the abyss. These are the triads. As you can see, there are different levels. We're not going to go into this at all, too much detail. And you have the right side, which has the gate of Mars, the gate of Mercury, and the gate of the Moon. This will be the yellow, the light blue, and the dark blue. These are levels we pass. I think the 3 levels of Freemasonry. We have 3 levels. These are the 3 levels, and a depiction of the ascension of our practice and study. Next page, please. This is INS angry. This is essentially the crown. You see that looks like a metal, not a metal, a stone mezuzah. I mean, I've not mentioned that over here, but the Sarvadic mezuzahs were vertical. Yeah, and this is a vertical mezuzah, as you can see over here. It's divination, it's Pluto, it's supreme force of energy, and nothing is left because Portuguese destroyed everything. They just left these 2 pillars. Symbolism. The 2 pillars essentially hold a sketa. This location, as you see over here, is the principle. First has no being, but is the essence of all of its energy. The Lion's Gate or the Judah, right? Formless passivity, indefinable separation. The personal house is the Holy Grail, the primal material. This is the essence of where all creation stems from. Okay, let's go to the next one. We have the second Sephiroth. This is the office of the district collector. Can you see the image at the bottom over here? In the shape of an ox horn. Ox horn is the symbol of Alif. Alif is the first ray of light that comes from Theta to the second Sephiroth, which is Hokmah. So Hokmah's wisdom, active intelligence, Plutonian energy. This is Neptune, right? So the Neptunian energies. This is Neptune. Let there be light and there was light. This is that moment. The first ray of light that comes upon. This was built by everybody, not by anyone specific. This was everyone's money built this. This is where all the gold used to be kept and all the gold used to be delivered afterwards. This was the main holding point of, and it's considered the father. Patriarchal stepping structure. Now we'll go on the left. See, I'll go quickly into this. George Whittle was a Scottish architect who didn't build it. He was involved in it. Yeah, with, of course, David Sassoon and many other people. And the names have changed in a lot of these places. So you have to understand a lot of changing has happened over here. New customs house, old customs house. It can get very confusing when you're trying to explain it. But this is visual. You know the location, you know the place, you know the way it looks. The next one. Next one is this Sephiroth, the third Sephiroth. Sephiroth is the Bank of India. The Bank of India basically is understanding the mother, the womb, right? Look at the top. Top is a container, the empty container. That's a womb. Understand? What is in the center? The square. Okay? In the square is an octagon. I mean, I don't want to go into symbology over here, and in that is a dot. So that is the primal material. The start of creation starts from here. It was made by a gentleman called Sir Henry Bartle Edwards, the first Baron Ferrer. He was also Knight Grand Cross, and the Order of Commander, the KCB. These are chivalric orders and the military orders. I mean, you understand, these were all military orders who were doing this at the time. We had the Dutch at the time also were trying to stop this work, but they went underground. So all these buildings have interconnected lodges beneath them. And my guess would be that each building is a type of allied Freemasonry, or a different part of it that is being represented in these buildings. I mean, this is, again, way further into the debate and still speculative, which I'm not going to get into. Nothing unless facts are going to be displayed over here at this moment. No fiction. All right, so we have the Privy Council of the United Kingdoms he was part of, and over here, David Sassoon himself spent 8 lakh rupees to build this building. Okay, let's move on. Next one. Next one, we have a picture. You can see the beautiful towers over here, the gorgeous pillars over here. This building is, I don't know, it's just absolutely amazing. We don't have any real preservation of our architectural history over here, nor do we really look into it. But these are just jaw-dropping buildings in every form. Next one, fourth Sephiroth. The fourth Sephiroth is when we go down to Netza. So we've got one, 2, point, right, left. Right down now. We're going to go right down. So it's point, right, left, and we're going to go right down to the next one, which is the BSE. So this is essentially Jupiter, the container, the snake, the people tree. This was originally used to be a people tree, which I was telling you earlier. This gentleman in the center, that is the man who was the architect. He wrote a book called 4 Dimensions. Beautiful book. I mean, you got to look at it. It probably has a lot of details explaining why and how he chose this design. And why he calls it 4-dimensional. Because this is where the Sephiroth comes to life. This is the moment of life that starts, the first manifestation of putting things together and coming to life, right? So this was also the first stock exchange, mind you not. We got the first bank, which is the Imperial Bank, and the first position, which is the house where everything started, and the first house, which is Keta, which is the Bombay Castle. So everything's the first over here. All the first. Sephiroth, the beginning. And it's like a drop of water. Millions of drops that fit behind the Sephiroth. And all the Sephiroths fall into the same Sephiroth. So when you say the king and the pawn go back in the same box, sort of allegoric to the idea of the trees. All the Sephiroths are all part of the same. They just break out and merge in different ways. So let's go to the next one over here. You can see the building is made in 3 levels. You can see over here in a lovely design on the left, some architectural pointers over there. You can see there's a bowl. Yeah, so that's the basket, an empty basket. And looks like a snake. The snake is standing up. So you see a cobra in the basket standing? Like the cobra in the basket. And inside it are the 3 levels of initiation, as you can see by the inner architecture that you can't see in the outer architecture. Next picture, his book is over there. You can see the 4th dimension of architecture. He also himself says the second phase of the project includes a 100-feet diameter hall, which Hadkar calls an inverted basket with a skylight. He uses the word, Times of India, right there, it's an inverted basket. Can we go to the next one, please? This is the 5th Sephiroth over here. The 5th Sephiroth is Lakshmi building. This is gorgeous. This is the lotus. Okay, this is Mars. Okay, this is the Hiramic treatise. We're going to hit the Hiramic story after this because this is where the murder was committed. This is the blood of where it started. You know, so Lakshmi, we have a guy called Lala Lajpat Rai. He essentially was one of the main proponents of this building and the construction of it with the aid of architects called Master Satya and Batu. Master Satya and Batu, basically these 2 guys, or this firm, I still have to do a lot more detail, are the next guys who build the next 3 buildings that we're going to speak of. Right? And then we got Yasur, which was also built by during the old times, and Malkut was open. It's the buildings and the stations at the bottom. So that we'll explain afterwards. So this symbology is very interesting because I wanted to bring up the order of the Scarlet Cord over here because the diameter and the height of the tower is 72 feet high. And in the story of the order of the Scarlet Cord, you see that the number 72 is very important. And he has to jump to get the maiden, and 72 as a symbol. I mean, it could be true, it could not, but there's definitely a symbolism over there regarding actually the dial over there. There's a clock. That's not a clock. It is a sundial or an astronomical dial. This is no clock. Okay? You can check it out. You can go into details. There are enough things specified about it. Can we go to the next page, please? This is Gebera. Gebera celerity, basically, this is all feminine energy. All the left side Sephiroths are feminine, all the right side Sephiroths are masculine. The center is the pathway, the journey of the initiate to move through that pathway from spirit all the way up to Keta and then back again. So this cycle is the cycle of life, essentially, that we learn over here. So Gebera over here is a form of the archangel Kamael, meaning severity. All right? And I'm not going to get into the lines. I've explained the Golden Dawn, the Scarlet similarity over here already. I will go to the next slide. The next slide also is here. On the left over here, you can see all the different connections. So basically, Lala Lajpat Rai, he built the first again, insurance company called Lakshmi Insurance Company. Originally founded in Lahore by Lala Lajpat Rai. This building was Bombay branch of the company. And don't forget, this man actually died during a Lati charge 3 days later. So they say that maybe he himself is not a Mason, that they know of, maybe because of his political standpoints, he couldn't be one at the time. But his hands, or his people who were around him, who guided him and gave him the information he needed to make his decisions, were pretty much Masons. So it could be the loss, they mourn the loss of him in this building. It's possible. That's a theory of mine. Very deep, very esoteric, not really provable because of its speculation over here. Now here we have again a bit more breakup. He was called the Lion of Punjab, Lala Lajpat Rai. You know, and early life, you can screenshot this. This is a nice little adaptive to it. The next page. Okay. As you can see here, this is the adaptation over here. Yeah, here the Lion of Punjab is also referred to as the Punjab National Bank. Very, very important character during the struggle of freedom in India, and prominent member of society. The next slide. We have the sixth plot over here, which we're going to come to. That is Bombay Life Building. Life Building, insurance company. This is pretty much most of them insurance companies, by the way. I guess those were the buildings they didn't need to have anybody worry about it and had all the money. Put them into insurance companies. So you have the Bombay Mutual Life Insurance Company, 1935. Now see, I told you about the circle in the center. You see there's a circle over there, and there's a dot in the center. So you see it will be a circle with a dot in the center. That is the sun. So this is the sun building. As I said, life also signifies an idea of sun. Sun is life. So this is the life building. Again, if you go up to the top over here, you'll see at the top corner, there are considerably some writings for ritual invocation into the visible appearance. It's got another tower at the top, clock over there, which is very symbolic. So let's move on. Victory, number 7, the Sephirot of Victory, which is the new insurance building. I love this one. It's my absolute favorite. An entire lecture can be done just on this guy and on this building. Yeah, Victory, I was telling you, look at the two swords at the top. They're holding two swords, standing at the top, two swords coming down. That gentleman designed that warrior's face, and he has also designed some brilliant structures included in. This was also made by Master Sathe and Bhuta, the same guys. And the gentleman over here is N.G. Nansari. Nansari constructed this in 1936, and it's an Art Deco building. And it basically gives you the illusion. Let's move to the next slide, and we'll go into the adaptation of what it is. Essentially, this is the Temple of Mitra. Understand? What I believe to be the Temple of Mitra. Or below this building are pathways that, you know, the temple could be or was used as back in the day. The next photo, please. A rational mind reacts, an irrational mind reacts, the gallery. So let's look at this from a purely perspective look, because how I explain this will be based on the where Flora Fountain is positioned and where Hod is positioned. Hod is the simple Jew, Siddharth College, as you may know, and also known as David Sassoon Library. Yeah, knowledge, 7 arts, and architecture, arts and sciences. Can we go to the next one, please? See, as I said, Metta is looking into pre-rational, instinctual gut reaction. So this is a gut reaction of the artist. It's his gut, and he works with penetration into the initial gut levels, instinct. In other words, to expand the force that ignites rational power. So this is what he's doing. See this beautiful architecture. The star, Venus. This is Venus, right? This is Venus. Look at the Venus, the structure of Venus, the necklace over here, the star in the ear, the eagle. You know, the amount of symbology over here is just mind-blowing. The way he's influenced it into this artwork. You look also Hokma in the sense this is the path where everything starts to manifest, because this is judging. Okay, now we've spoken about pillars. We're going to get into a bit of Freemasonry over here with the position of these 2 pillars. The left pillar over here is going to be Boaz. The right pillar over here is going to be judging. right? Now, Judging basically is Venus over here, the Venus symbolization of where the temple is going to ascend in from. Can we move to the next image over here? Splendor of unity. That was the word. Splendor of unity. Yeah. Beautiful structures. That's the link in case you want to see any of his work. It's like 40, 50 pages. And that's just starting on what they've biographed, not really going into much detail on anything else. See the pot, water, elements, the fire, element of fire, element of water, these Venusian, Atlantean-looking sculptures, the face line, the cut lines, the high cheekbones, the magnitude, the girth of the structures. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Behind this building is essentially the 8th Sephiroth. The next side, opposite. So we have a parallel. One side is basically Netza, which is the building we just spoke about, the New Shah's building. And the other side is this building over here. These are the pillars, right? So this pillar is Boaz. Yeah? Why is this Boaz? Why do we consider this Boaz? Because it's a mirror effect occurs over here. What is the mirror effect? This was built by Albert. He was an architect who used to build office buildings back in the 19th century. In the UK also, he used to build many office buildings over there. In fact, the same office building, the same location is built here and there, and the entire outlay, the city plan is identical. Where the position of what we just spoke about, Flora Fountain, and this building, including Oriental Building, which is on the left over there. Right? So the college is Albert Building. And over here, Resh is Oriental Building. So there's a line. We were speaking about the line. They all join these Sephiroths together. Oriental Building is the face. On this building, there are different faces. 3 faces on each side of the building, facing forward. What do they mean? Resh means face. Definition. If you look at the symbol from the top, the building is shaped like that. That's definition. So this is a small example of just one of the lines and its interconnection. Why I have to go into that? Because the whole plan has to be interconnected over there. All right, let's go to the next image over here. This is the symbol of the state of Israel. Okay, this is essentially the sign of the Holy Temple of Jerusalem. And I couldn't be more precise than that. Look at the building; it's all over the artwork. Go to any building, anywhere, any structure, you'll see this somewhere. Even my school, cathedral, we have buildings, 2 or 3 buildings there. All these buildings, the top turrets, all have these sort of designs on them. Yeah, so you can see the deepness of this design. We go to the next one. I was speaking of the faces. You see the faces over here in the next image on the left side. This is the Oriental Building. The 3 faces. The speculation is that could be Shakespeare, that could be Socrates and Plato. Speculative. It could be. Could be other people. Once we check it out, we'll find out. But I'm not being able to get into that right now. So once lockdown opens, I hopefully will be able to do this research in a more hands-on matter and take physical detail even of keystone placements. Now let's move on to the next one. This is an old rendition of the Orient Building and a picture behind it of Albert. There you go, right there. Beautiful photo. Lovely design. Now let's move forward again. Again, the symbolism over here. This is very important because the symbolism, I was telling you that this is the temple, the holy purpose as the support of the sanctuary, and the temple is undoubtedly the reason why it has become adopted in masonry and as the value of the mark. Read down to the bottom of this left picture over here. The mark for Mason is Tau. Tau is the mark. We'll get into that as well. The beautiful symbology over there. Let's move forward. This picture over here, you see, this is the connection of both places. Both these places are essentially a mirror image in London. That's Bloomingdale's. Bloomingdale's is the Temple of Mitra. It's covered. They built a mall on top of it. And then the left side over here, you see even the design of the building. Albert Building on the left, and you see Oriental Building. The same way, it's laid out in the same format. And the red lines in the center. Yes, right in the center over there. Correct. Thank you for the pointer so much. Next image, please. I don't have much time left. This is number 9. The Sephiroth of Elohim. E and L. It's in architecture, they have something called illusion, parallel illusion. Right? So see those 2 turrets over there. Those 2 turrets essentially are illusion that create the letter E. E and L. And who built this building? What is this building in its foundation? This is the pillar that holds this whole structure up and puts it together. So this is the essence of everything that is being put together to build the tree of life, the root. Yeah, so can we go further on as well to the next one? That white part was not there before. It was not part of the original structure, and it has a story to that as well, but I won't get into that. This over here, you're right over here, is the inside of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Now, this is how our tunnels would have been dug. All the city has lines that interconnect through these 10 buildings. An entire underground network is there. And it's been proven in certain areas, but I'm quite convinced it spans the entire length of the city. Okay, Elohim, as you can see over here, what the meaning of God means. Why Elohim is God and the different versions of God and how it can be explained. Also the dragon and the symbology of the emperor, everything I've placed over here, including the number 9. And let's move on to the next image. Public Works Building. This is the building that was made. It was made by a gentleman called Wilkins Henry St. Clair. As you can see, it's from Nottingham. It was the archdeacon over here. And very interesting history, huh? He forced, basically field force remained against the Arabs in 1858. He commanded the Royal Engineers throughout the Abyssinian campaign in 1668. And Lord of Napier and Magdala, and invaluable. So basically, he also received something called aide de camp. Aide de camp is essentially, as you go to the next page, basically is appointed by the royal household with the United Kingdom. It's a distinction that the aide de camp basically is given by the Queen. So he can only be given that if he's a member of the royal family. So he was essentially a member of the royal family, an accomplished draftsman, accomplished employee in architecture and engineering. And you can see he's got a bio up the tree of life itself. Very strong bio, very strong work. And you can see all the different areas he's worked. And he also did a place called Sassoon Hospital in Pune, which just recently has also found that there are underground tunnels there too. So that also signifies that they did work on underground tunnels, and so did this gentleman. They were very key in the elemental drawing of the way the city was designed. Next slide is the 10th one. This is the 10th Sephirah. This is Malkut. This is the basic amalgamation of everything below. The kingdom on earth. And what is David? David is the crown of Malkut. So that's something to understand from that point. Here, let me go into a bit detail. 4 elements. It represents the 5 elements. And that's a gentleman called Sir Vinshaw Idwalji Wacha. He basically is a Parsi gentleman. He's on a pillar over there. His pillar says Tuketha. And he stands as spirit. He is the spirit of the pentagram that is placed upon this zone in this area. You'll see in the next photo. Can we go to the next photo for a second? Since we already explained the different buildings and we won't really have much time to go into that. See the top here. So this is how they lay out. And he is in the center of this middle picture, there is a chakra, a wheel. That is where the gentleman's statue is placed. Amazing. Can we have the next page, please? The Hiramic tragedies. I will take this up to exactly 2 minutes and explain as quickly as possible. That is basically the hidden knowledge. The hidden knowledge essentially is what Harim Abith calls the secret knowledge that he is not supposed to hand down. That is the key that we spoke of in the first line of this lecture. That goes and he saves it, moves away, and he gets murdered in Deborah. Deborah, which we spoke of, the Lakshmi building with the lotus below, red, blood, justice, you know. So this is where it goes, and then you have the second one. This is where the murder was committed. And you have the third position, which is Yasod. Yasod is the foundation. It's here. But the ruffians thought they had hidden the evidence of their crime. So this is where they hid the evidence of their crime. You can say maybe that this gentleman, this man who died, Lala Lajpat Rai, was that gentleman who they venerated to such degree that, you know, he was essentially the Harim Abith of this tragedy or this Dante's comedy that is created over here. Next level, next page. This is the position of the lodge and other positions of the different places of the Sephirah are lined up. This is fully Freemasonic understanding to how we are in the lodge and how we place our different positions and how we are essentially creating a pantomime of circumambulation, relating the stars and the planets and the galaxies above, which is the most beautiful part of all this. You know, as you can see over here, this lovely little diagram. which has a lot of symbology to it. Here we have the triad of the horizontal planes. The first plane is the mount, which is the base. Next page, please. The second plane is ethical, and the third is supernal. I'll go very quickly through this. These are the three buildings. When I say that the heaven comes down, this is the keystone. So on the left over here of this triad, the mount, right, the bottommost part of this tree is where the two pillars stand. And between these two pillars, heaven, or the third temple, will rise and come in. Or the third temple is spiritual significance or literal, completely up to the way you want to perceive it. Yeah. The second idea of this is that the Torah fountain is a keystone. We'll get into that. Let's move forward a bit. Next slide, please. Yeah. Lovely slide. This is the tetragrammaton. This is where it is placed in the center, and this has a lot of symbology with the Royal Ark stories and with the Royal Ark rituals. It has a lot of instructional stories with the idea of the Gospel of Thomas. And St. Thomas's Church is placed right here, as you can see, as the third part. We've done the left and the right. This was basically a line for the middle. Each level is a level of ascension, a way for us to move like our apprentice. This is the FC level, the fellowcraft level. Before was the entered apprentice level, and now we go to the master mason level, which is the next level. Can we see the master mason? Oh, sorry, we're still in the Vale of Parakeet. I was telling you, St. Thomas and all this stuff is all related to that. This is basically the journey to find the soul. After that, we have the third one, which is the abyss. You can go to the next one. Asiatic Library. Okay, now once you've done that, you'll enter in Dutch. Dutch you fall into, because Dutch is the gateway. And you create a loop, so you can create multiple lifetimes before you leave Dutch. And you can't get to Qatar until you realize and move through Dutch, and you move through the gate of the moon. And you enter up from the abyss in this gulf of the void. The phenomenal world manifests, and the nuance of cosmic energy, you become one with Atma, with the primordial, and then again we cycle. It's just spiraling again and again. So can we move to the next image, please? The 22 parts. Yeah, the 22 parts are all laid out over here. I'll give you a few examples to be really quick about it. Lamet. Lamet is the point with which we enter the lodge. It's the breaking. When we stand in our first degree and we have a dagger pointed at us, that dagger essentially is Lamet. It's puncturing the ethereal world. So we may enter into the initiation of understanding and ritual, or of understanding and universal truth that is said. You see on the right side, there is a full upload. We've not gone to the next slide. Please go to the next slide, because we're going to be a bit delayed otherwise. Here, see at the top over here, that is how it comes up and down. It's like a battery. It generates energy up and down, up and down, up and down. Next slide again. We have the Sabbatai Zevi. Sabbatai Zevi, very important key alchemist. He was a false messiah, but he's got a lot of significance to this time. And he was also a Jew that converted to being a Muslim, and then was buried in a Sufi temple. So beautiful interpretations, and he has a lot of connectivity with Garcia de Orta and a lot of these men like John Debs, and we're going to talk about John Dee. On the right side, you will see how a shape of a bottle, a water droplet occurs. This is a separate. This is the breaking of the vessel. You see the way that droplet breaks away from the top string part, and you see there are multiple tiny layers in the right side image at the bottom. Tiny layers that are circles, that are in circles. This is the level of the Sephirah. This is how the Sephirah is perceived from the side. See, we're looking at it from a 2D perspective. This is 3D. Okay, can we go to the next image, please? And parts over here, we've got three. Then we're going to look at Ayin. Ayin is the eye. Pe is the mouth. Resh is the face. We showed you Resh earlier with the Oriental building, right? Chin is the tooth. And with that, in the last gentleman, Sabbatai Zevi, he has created the 231 gateways. He manifests each line. Each corner line is a gateway that he describes and explains in great detail. So this is something that we look at. Tav is the symbol of completion. Now completion is what? Completion is when the work is done, you have an X. Or an X that marks is called the master mason, has to complete his work and show that the work has been completed. Can we have the next image, please? The line between 7 and 10 is the mark. 8 and 10 over here is the mark. This is Shin. Shin is like the symbolism of the left side. You see that? It looks like a tooth. This is the base root of Elohim. Elohim, the word in Yesod. Right? And there's Victoria. She looks like a tooth over there. This is the symbol of tooth. This is what it means. It means tooth. It also means fork. Does that building look like a fork? It looks like a fork as well. And it's got on top of the tower on top, which again looks like the tip of a tooth. So the amount of symbology to this is the tooth. And this is basically the throne of David. David left the throne when he was given initiation. You can go to the next slide, and I will complete it now in the next 2 slides. And so I don't take up any more of your time. I've already extended by a lot at this point. So give me 2 minutes more of your time, and I will complete this. This is Tau, very important, and I have to complete it, and I completed it on the completion of the work. This position is basically the mark that this work has been finished and this work has been completed. This is on the line of Tau. Tau is between the base of Yasod and the bottom of Malkut. There's a garden over here, and there's a cross over here, a big cross that is replaced by Christianity, and they have a full sort of idolization that happens. So I won't get into that as well. Let's move on. And the keystone, the final part. Oh, I've got a moth came on me. The last part is the keystone over here. I'm going to read this poem. It's by Niranjan Bhagat. A glass and concrete jungle in its midst, all quiet, calmly. With hope-filled faces, she stands Flora, a dream of spring in her matchless eyes, holding in both hands stone flowers about her, in all concrete, in all corners, iron butterflies around and around, and the lifeless insects play. We are those lifeless insects. The butterflies are the chariots that are bringing in the third temple. And the symbology is that this is the keyhole. This is the keystone with which we look through. And we can see into the third dimension, the next dimension, where the garden or the kingdom of whatever it is supposed to come to. The metaphoric, physical, see the interpretation of something. You can see straight through it, right over there. Okay, are we done? You can see the next slide. That is the picture of the keystone. Looks like a keystone, honestly. Design is exactly like that. Now we'll complete everything and we can decide a couple of points over here. The next page is our conclusion. This could be Templarian money that could have come into it. No definition over here. We can't prove this. We're not going to. But definitely there was something here, and it took a lot of money to build this. It's not easy to build. It was not cost effective. It was something that was done from love, from passion, from patronage. Yeah. The Holy Order of Christ definitely, I'm sure, had a connectivity to this. Mother Jerusalem. Jews believe this to be their motherland. This could be a place where that could have been associated. We have a depiction of the tree of life, which is absolutely guaranteed. We see Hinduism come into it, Buddhism come into it. We see Hermetic astrology come into it. We see Kabbalism come into it. So it's a lot of learning. This is a tree of knowledge. Understand? And this is the area where the Bene Jews were also lost. This island. Plato created the city for musings. The goddess's purpose was to the Senates of Tyre, was to the goddess. See again, Flora, the goddess. Again, you can say the elders of Zion, though we cannot relate or not relate with that. That could be another passage of it, because it's an understanding of that passage. Read it and understand the way it all plays together. There's a synergy. And the last and not least, they believe that this was their homeland. But I personally believe this was designed like a pyramid to create and hold sacred knowledge for every brethren. You can start scrolling through the last pages while I complete. You can go to the next link. This is some of the building photos up ahead. Yeah, and you can just start scrolling through them, and we can finish off now. So as you can see, this is Garcia de Horta, and that is his great grandson over there. You can see his name is Rabbi Yahuv Menesha, yeah, the Benesha. So they have basically got a very strong following over there as well. He has a synagogue in Bombay, and very interconnected to this story, obviously, because he's the great grandson from his mother's side of David Sassoon. Next image. Again, you can see the communities that were there. Next image, and he's there with his sons. And the guy on the side with the suit, that's Albert. Bitsdale, the tent, that's Albert, yeah, on the right side, that's in the suit, tuxedo. And then the next image, we have, yeah, that's it, Tabernacle, and that's the design of St. Thomas's Church. That's it, we're done. And over here, you can see on the left image, over here, I can't see it, sorry, in the screen, is the bottom, Malkut, as I said, the lifeless insects, where the coffin is placed. And next image, I think we're completely finished now. Thank you. And you can go on. We've already gone through all this history and explained it, the different parts and areas. See? Lovely, just a glimpse of what we've gone through to give you some visual feed. Next one. Yeah, yeah. And thank you. And that's the arrow of Ra. And that's a 3D. Yeah, just leave this one. That's the 3D version of a tree of life. Behind it. Go back one more. That's the 3D version of the tree of life. So we have to see it as a 3D version as well. Yeah. And that last image is basically, that is the temple. Yeah, that is the 3D version of the tree of life. That's how we see a saffron. It's a serpent. It's not flat. It's a serpent that rises, and it has many manifesting points to it. Yeah. And the last one is basically the Twin Towers, which is basically down in a prayer. Spenta Mighty. So over there are two pillars. So they've been removed. So it's going to cause a lot of problems to the city of Mumbai because of this. You know, because of flooding. The Parsis also, and the symbology of that is very important to this whole layout as well, which I wanted to highlight because of the destruction. So that completes my entire lecture. Thank you so much, brethren, for taking the time to stay here. I apologize for making it so long, and floor is open.
Thank you very much, Brother Richard. I now invite Right Worshipful Brother Bharat to give his concluding remarks.
Thank you, Worshipful Master. Wow, what else can I say? Brother Richard, you have exceeded my expectations. Thank you so much for having shared your passion for the city of Mumbai and its basic foundation and the ethos and the esoteric behind it. You know why I said that, because there is so much that you have collected, so much information that you wish to share, that it could not be done in one session. And even this session itself, I'm sure my brethren in the audience will agree with me that it was mind-blowing, expansive, and at the same time quite incisive. The only thing I wish to suggest for your consideration and the consideration of the brethren is that this city of Mumbai, which has been called by so many names, Maximum City, Bollywood, and all these things, but if you go to the heart of the city, it is almost the original temple. So the temple has, in Indian history and in ancient Indian history and ancient Indian philosophy and religion, the temple has been the very heart of the village. It is a temple which gives refuge in times of crisis. It was the temple's godowns which had stored the grains which were used in times of drought or shortages. It was a temple where all the living arts were taught, including dance, music, drama, education. And it was a temple where people went for solace. So the city of Mumbai is one giant temple. That's all I would like to say. Brethren, the floor is open, and for questions, you can, as Worshipful Master mentioned, you can type them in the chat box, or you can just press your raise your hand, and we will try to see that all your questions are answered. Once again, my very sincere thanks to Brother Richard and Brother Worshipful Master Velu for having made this possible. And brethren, all of you, thank you for being here present and sharing this mind-blowing experience with us.
Brother Bharat, thank you so much for your amazing kind words and your inspiration towards this project to get me going and to stop living in an aloof land and to create it into a manifested world of reality. Firstly, that was something that really helped me out. I really want to also thank my first worshipful master of Saurabh Dagar Lodge number 113, Anand Gokhale, who inspired me from the very beginning with this many years. I've been working on this for 3 years now, 4 years. I mean, actually, I've been working on this for about 10 years. But 3-4 years have been where it's actually come into a lot more detail with the building. Before I was into the esoteric and the externals, but stepping into it from this area has been absolutely amazing. And the brethren of my lodge and Brother Adi and Brother Jal, who is my sponsor into Freemasonry. Without these gentlemen, I don't think, I would have even managed to take one step forward. Thank you so much, brethren, for all your support and help in this endeavor.
Brother Richard, you'll be happy to know that the District Grand Master, the District Grand Lodge of Eastern Archipelago of the English Constitution, Right Worshipful Dato Jairaj Rathaswamy, was present. And he's left behind a comment saying an amazing presentation on the history of Mumbai. Thanks, Richard. And you'll be happy to know that because Brother Jairaj is himself a very erudite person.